Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept the View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo.
Things got intense on live TV when Sunny Hostin and Charlie Kirk went head-to-head in a heated debate. What started as a tough exchange quickly turned one-sided. Charlie Kirk made his points sharply and clearly, while Hostin struggled to keep up. Her arguments started to fall apart under pressure, and you could feel the tension in the room. Even the audience seemed unsure. Was this a debate or a disaster? Kirk stayed focused and confident, while Hostin appeared visibly rattled. In the end, this wasn't just a disagreement, it was a clear win for Kirk and a tough moment for Hostin on national television.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%. Right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they
Every now and then, a live TV moment goes so off the rails, it feels like it belongs in a documentary. That's exactly what happened when Sunny Hostin had a rough time on air again. What unfolded wasn't just another heated exchange. It was a full-blown meltdown that played out in real time. It was raw, unexpected, and honestly, hard to look away from. This wasn't your average talk show stumble. It was a moment so unforgettable, it could go down as one of daytime TV's most dramatic breakdowns.
Look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last.
To be fair, Sunny Hostin wasn't set up or blindsided. There were no surprise guests, no shouting matches, and no dramatic walkouts. Just the lasting impact of Charlie Kirk's words, sharp, direct, and echoing across the airwaves. He didn't even need to be in the same room or the same time zone. His points hit hard, and the effect was clear. The conversation shifted, and Sunny was left trying to recover in real time.
White privilege is a racist myth that is rooted in bigotry, trying to classify people based on their skin color. If you are a racist, you have something to apologize for. If you're a white person who is not a racist, you have nothing to apologize for. And anyone who makes you apologize just based on the color of their skin, they're the racist and you're not.
This was modern media strategy in full swing. Charlie Kirk released a highly polished video on his own platform, edited to perfection, complete with bold visuals and dramatic music. It wasn't just a response, it was a full-scale takedown of Sunny Hostin's views. Kirk didn't hold back. The video was sharp, aggressive, and designed to make a splash. Subtle? Not at all. But effective? Absolutely. It felt less like a critique and more like a calculated demolition, and the internet couldn't get enough of it.
This Turning Point conference, were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs, and
I think it's important that every single person that attended that Turning Point, every Republican speak up against the swastikas, against the See flags that were waved.
You let them in.
President, open your
You
mouth.
let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit.
The clip went viral almost instantly. Within hours, it was all over social media, trending on Twitter with headlines like Charlie Kirk shuts down daytime TV and Sunny Hostin meets reality check. Subreddits were buzzing, comment sections lit up, and reaction channels dove in fast, treating the moment like a prime-time spectacle. The View, usually a controlled and comfortable space for left-leaning voices, suddenly felt off balance, like a cruise ship caught in rough waters. The energy dipped, the tone shifted, and Sunny Hostin, known for her sharp mind and composed presence, started to visibly unravel. Now, to be clear, there were no dramatic outbursts, no yelling, no chaos. This wasn't reality TV. What made it so powerful was the quiet breakdown, the fidgeting, the awkward pauses, the forced smiles, the kind of silence that speaks volumes. It was a rare moment where the usual confidence just slipped, and for viewers it was clear something big had happened. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk, miles away, filming from his own space, was likely watching it all unfold, knowing exactly the impact he'd made. This wasn't about debating policy, it was about control, about shifting the narrative. And in that moment, Sunny wasn't just defending her points, she was representing an entire media class. Educated, polished, usually unshakable. But this time, the clip told a different story.
And the final point I'll say is this, is Sunny, you guys thought that abortion was going to be this like quasi-zealot religious issue. I'm pro-life. If people in the audience aren't, that's fine. What I'm saying though, what gives me promise, and I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megan. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter more. And good for them.
And that's exactly the point. It was all by design. This is classic Charlie Kirk strategy. Take a public figure, strip away the context, and throw them straight into the fire of internet culture. It's not about being right. It's about being louder, faster, and ahead of the curve in the online battlefield. And in this case he was. While Sunny Hostin was likely easing into her weekend, Kirk had already launched 6 viral edits, sparked a storm of reaction memes, and even rolled out new merch. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was a full-blown media ambush. Sunny wasn't losing a debate, she was getting hit by a wave of coordinated outrage, all wrapped in showmanship and strategy. She thought she was navigating a normal talk show segment. Instead, she walked into a media storm, carefully orchestrated and already in motion. And while The View has seen its fair share of dramatic moments, walkouts, tense interviews, and on-air therapy sessions, this one was different. It wasn't a conversation. It never got that far. This was a digital blitz, and the cameras didn't miss a beat. The shift in her posture, the quick glances to the teleprompter as if it might offer a way out, and that moment when her voice, normally steady and strong, began to waver. It was subtle, but unmistakable. The kind of moment that lives on far beyond the broadcast.
Welcome back. You know, in Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So.
Online, things escalated fast. Reaction videos from Charlie Kirk's circle looped Sunny's on-air discomfort into endless montages. Conservative sites called it a win for the culture war. Even TikTok jumped in. Gen Z users turned her facial expressions into viral memes, remixing them with the kind of speed and intensity only the internet can deliver. And through it all, Charlie Kirk was beaming, positioned like a confident voice cutting through the noise. His followers praised it as the moment traditional media finally cracked under the pressure of New Age commentary. And to be fair, they weren't completely wrong. Kirk understands the game. In today's world of content-driven politics, facts are secondary. What really matters is the image, who appears in control, who triggers the strongest reactions, and who earns the moment with a soundtrack and a headline. In that battle, Sunny didn't stand a chance. The moment the clip went live, the algorithm chose its side, and it wasn't hers. This wasn't a clash of ideas, it was a digital brawl. And Sunny brought careful analysis to a platform that rewards spectacle. Kirk delivered a media moments so calculated, so fine-tuned for virality, it didn't need debate, it needed a firewall. This wasn't commentary, it was a strategic media strike, executed with precision, delivered in full HD, and wrapped in confidence. And once it landed, there was no taking it back.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that, a $200 million settlement? I think, Charlie, you could use the money, and your students definitely could too.
And when it hit hard, like a direct strike on the carefully crafted image Sunny Hostin had built over the years. Known for her intellect and confident presence, none of that mattered once the internet chose her as the latest target. It wasn't about being right or wrong. It was about perception, and in that viral moment, she looked caught off guard, vulnerable. And in today's media world, being visibly human on live TV can feel like a fatal misstep. Charlie Kirk didn't win because he was more informed. He won because he was ruthless, and the internet thrives on that kind of spectacle. Blood draws clicks. And what was once the safe, polished world of daytime television, it's now just another arena for public takedowns. Sunny walked into that moment thinking she was leading a discussion. Instead, she became the focus of a narrative she never agreed to. No rebuttal. No prepared response. Just an on-screen unraveling under the weight of internet judgment. Her composure, so steady for so long, slowly gave way in real time. And yes, it was compelling. The kind of dramatic arc that social media eats up. The surprise hit, the struggle to stay composed, the realization that millions were watching it unfold live. What made it so heartbreaking is that she fought to keep it together. She really did. But in a media moment like that, effort isn't always enough.
Look at your achievements. How do you like the so-called uneducated now, Sunny?
Yeah, and again, by the way, rarely do you get the answer to a question in the question. And her whole question is exactly why there was a rebellion against them.
Yes.
Listen, just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. I always differentiate between knowledge and wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. I mean, it's or about North African lesbian poetry. Okay, that stuff's fine. I get.
When your public image becomes a punchline, there's no graceful way to recover in real time. And while Sunny Hostin was trying to hold it together, Charlie Kirk was already deep into his victory lap, not walking, but sprinting across TikTok, Instagram Reels, and every viral feed in sight. The media did what it does best, pick sides based on clicks. Suddenly, everyone had a take on Sunny's facial expressions, her silence, even how quickly she blinked. Whole opinion pieces popped up dissecting seconds of footage. This wasn't journalism, it was spectacle, and everyone wanted a piece. And here's the wildest part. Charlie Kirk never even showed up in person. He managed to dominate the narrative from another studio, maybe another zip code, just by knowing how to play the game. His weapon. Online momentum. And the message to legacy media couldn't have been louder. Sunny Hostin's rough moment wasn't just a personal stumble. It was the sound of a media machine struggling to adapt, up against the fast, sarcastic, and emotionally charged force of modern internet culture. While she came prepared with law school logic and thoughtful analysis, the other side brought memes, mockery, and a digital army. And the internet, it didn't just watch, it devoured.
Now we begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo-Nazis who showed up outside the event.
For years, liberal media believed that truth would always win. The idea was simple: stack up solid research, add some legal insight, deliver it calmly with a Yale degree, and people would listen, reflect, and maybe even change their minds over a quiet cup of tea. Spoiler alert, that's not how it works in 2025. Today's audience scrolls right past detailed policy breakdowns for videos with titles like "Liberal Melts Down After Getting Destroyed by Common Sense." The game has changed. People don't want careful debates anymore. They want the political version of WWE, full of body slams, trash talk, and chairs flying across the ring. Debating used to be about who made the best argument. Now it's about who can create the most viral moment. If your opponent turns you into a 10-second meme set to sad violin music, you've already lost, no matter how solid your facts are. Charlie Kirk didn't bring a thick dossier to the fight. He came armed with a digital wrecking ball. And the craziest part, he didn't even need to be there in person. It was like a drone strike on the segment from miles away. Meanwhile, Sunny Hostin was left sitting in the rubble of her own credibility, blinking like someone who just realized a polished resume doesn't protect you from becoming a meme.
Over the weekend, Turning Point USA hosted a riveting event in Tampa, Florida called the Student Action Summit. Outside of the event were individuals waving flags and engaged in other activities. Well, on Monday's show, members of The View made a few comments about it.
The conservative group Turning Point USA has condemned the group of neo-Nazis and said they have nothing to do with the organization.
Yeah, but where was DeSantis is what I want to know.
But you let them in. You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit.
And here's the real kicker. Liberal media still hasn't figured out how to fight back. They're stuck in the past, sipping lats, hoping logic and reason will win the day. But this isn't a courtroom anymore, it's a circus. If you show up with facts and calm while your opponent's juggling fire and shouting into a megaphone, guess who the crowd's watching? Sunny Hostin's image took a bigger hit than a politician's approval rating after a leaked Mick moment, and not because she was wrong. No, this was all about optics. She looked rattled. She looked trapped. And in today's world, looking defeated often feels worse than actually losing. The internet doesn't run on truth, it runs on perception, and the perception was clear. She got steamrolled by a guy who probably practices his takedowns in front of the mirror next to his protein powder. The damage, it's permanent, at least online. That one clip has exploded into its own universe of TikTok edits, YouTube breakdowns, Instagram reels filled with emojis, and influencer reaction videos from people who probably couldn't explain due process if it handed them a subpoena. Sunny's poise shattered into 1,000 bite-sized pieces, perfect for the algorithm to share, remix, and monetize.
Monday, we talked about the fact that there were openly neo-Nazi demonstrators outside the Florida Student Action Summit of the Turning Point USA group. We want to make clear that these demonstrators were gathered outside the event and that they were not invited or endorsed by Turning Point USA. A Turning Point USA spokesman said the group, quote, 100% condemns those ideologies, and said Turning Point USA security tried to remove the neo-Nazis from the area but could not because they were on public property. Also, Turning Point USA wanted us to clarify that this was a Turning Point USA summit and not a Republican Party event. So we apologize for anything we said that may have been unclear on these points.
Image is everything. And when a media figure flinches, the vultures don't just circle, they live stream it. Sunny Hostin might bounce back with her traditional viewers. But in today's digital gladiator arena, composure alone won't cut it. She needs a new playbook, one that accepts the harsh truth. People aren't here for fairness or justice. They're here for blood, popcorn, and whatever goes viral before lunch. Her breakdown wasn't loud or angry. It wasn't a show. It was real, and that made it even harder to handle. If you're not ready to join the circus, tough luck, because the circus finds you anyway. So here lies Sunny Hostin's media reputation, slightly singed, endlessly mimied. A once untouchable voice now trapped in a loop of blinking eyes, replayed non-stop by the very platforms she underestimated. Charlie Kirk. He's already moved on, grinning from his digital throne. Sunny will probably recover, but the internet, it never forgets.